Hey YouTube, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Rational the Radio. I am Rational the Radio. Welcome to my show. Thanks for tuning in. Today is Father's Day. I really wanted to reach out to you guys and talk about parents in general. Fathers will be in there, don't worry, this is your day and we're going to celebrate it. But an article came out and I really wanted to share my opinion on it and hear what you guys had to think about why the old ways of parenting no longer works, by a Miss Alyssa Strauss. Again, guys, let's not attack the person, but let's focus primarily on the opinion, the idea that they're propagating, and whether it's a positive idea or a negative idea, why we disagree with it, and possibly we can learn and develop our own opinions going forward. This isn't about insulting the person. It's about addressing an issue or something that you believe to be an issue. Then we can start a dialogue. That's what this show's about. Now, before we start off, I just want to say a huge thank you to everybody who subscribed after my last video. I put a blast out on the internet just hoping that I would get a couple of views, and it was insane, at least for my viewing ratings. So thank you so much to everybody who watched. A huge thank you to everybody who subscribed, and it definitely encourages me to make some more positive content for you guys. I hope that you enjoy this video. I hope that you stick around for more videos. But anyway, let's jump right into it. Every couple of years, a book or article arrives diagnosing parents with catastrophic spinelessness. The power pyramid has been inverted, they warn, and the children are in, and therefore out of, control. That being said, the first thing that you should think if you're trying to read this with an open mind, but also with a critical mind, is why should we treat your opinion any different than any of those other articles? If this article is coming out and you stating the fact that there's going to be more articles going on talking about the problems in parenting, if the world implements these, what is going to make your argument stand out when the new articles come out saying that your way of thinking is wrong? But that's just a tiny thing. That has nothing really to do with this inside article. That's just what I think. Moving forward, while my husband and I are pretty good at standing by a no, we do allow for some conversations and negotiation on our way there. Now, I completely agree with this. I think that you should be able to sit down and have a conversation with your child on why you have rules and regulations and why punishments are there in the first place. On a personal note, my father usually sat down with us to explain why these things were the way they are, why he was, setting these rules in place, why the punishments were there. And he did a fantastic job. Now, obviously, there's a time and a place to let your children know when things are right or wrong. Like if little Billy is hanging out in the middle of a four-way intersection, the first thing that you need to do is get him out of the four-way intersection. But please, by heaven's means, just tell him why, because he might go back out there again. Also, when it comes to our daily eating and sleeping routine, we lean a little bit toward flexibility and away from structure. While more rigidity might establish more parental authority, it would also generate more insanity as we'd all struggle to uphold the systems we put in place. Routine is important for a child. Now, it doesn't have to be routine in everything, but I think sleeping and eating routines are wonderful things to have. It means that there's a safety net, there's a security for the child. There's something that tells them that normalcy is going to be something that my parents will uphold. They will defend this thing. Having a set time that we all sit down and eat together is super important as well. I think that's something that's missing in a lot of today's households. And listen, if a movie's going on, if you're watching a really good movie, and there's 30 minutes left of the movie, I think that kind of flexibility is okay. But if a child just doesn't want to go to bed, I think you should be able to be firm in that way. Moving on. According to Catherine Lewis, author of the new book, The Good News About Bad Behavior, already sounds like a whole bunch of things I disagree with, it's time to let go of these concerns. The command and control, the I'm in charge, it doesn't work, she said. Now, the main thing that you're going to have to convince me with that is that statistics show that they don't work. Because I would say, citation needed. Cite your source. The way that you're going to convince most of these people is by giving a study. I see no link in this article to the study that Miss Lewis did or anything like that. Most people deem me a somewhat respectable individual in society. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn, I'm tooting my parents' horn. And I take that to the fact that they were very strict on being respectful to people outside of the house and inside of the house. There was a standard set for me. I don't think that that's being too mean or too harsh, but they were in charge. And I knew that they were in charge, and there would be people that were in charge of me while I was a child. And I had to respect that authority. They told me why I had to as well. So for this part, citation needed. I would need like a graph or a chart and a legitimate source. I'm not really convinced. Moving forward. One of the first steps, she explains, is separating our ideas of parental authority from the days of father knows best. While this authoritarian approach worked in the past, it's ineffective for today's generation of young ones who are far more comfortable with collaboration. Again, citation needed. And focusing on the father knows best, happy Father's Day by the way everybody, any person who thinks that father knows best is solely because he says so, then I would agree. Somebody who thinks that they know best just because they're a father does not know what it means to be a father. Sometimes fathers don't know best, but one thing that I'd say is fathers usually know better than the child. Mothers usually know better than the child. Now, when it comes to emotional aspects, like the inner workings of the child's heart and their mind, sometimes the child knows better. This thing may scare them, so they may not want to do this thing. Heaven knows if you're afraid of water and the parent says just throw them in the water, then the child might know better. Maybe put me in the water. That's where the asking, the communicating with the child comes into play. But when it comes to the moral standings, safety, or any of those things, I think father knows best, mother knows best. Mother might know better than you. Let's go with that instead of father knows best. I think that's the underlying thing about the father knows best. But we move on. There are no longer these straight lines of authority. The boss is no longer in charge of the dad. The dad is no longer in charge of the mom, and the mom is no longer in charge of the kids. Now, I don't know what kind of insane world you are talking about where the boss is no longer in charge of the employees, ergo a father, and the mother is no longer in charge of the kids. I'm seeing some facts of that, which is very saddening. The middle one we can agree to disagree on. I would say that's kind of true, but I think the first one is ridiculously untrue, and the last one is concerning. All mothers should be concerned if they do not have any say in what their children do. That's kind of a scary aspect, but she's postulating this as a positive. Now, she moves on, and Miss Strauss starts to talk about her own family, talking about younger children. Well, her 6-month-old child and how her 5-year-old child is starting to get a little bit more testy. He's starting to sort of wrestle with the, 6-month-old child. As per Lewis's recommendation, we gave the consequence contract a shot. Our son, who, again, roughhouses with a 6-month-old child, chose a timeout, a decision that made me laugh on account of the fact timeouts are now considered retrograde. But if that's what he wanted, I figured, then that is what he should get. I would argue the reason why he picked that one is because that one was the least punishing thing he could think of. If I was a child, and I was, not too long ago, I mind you, I would have picked a timeout too. I would say, yeah, throw me in timeout. I'll just create a world for myself while I wait to get out and do other things that I want to do. It's not a huge punishment for assaulting my younger brother. She states that it worked, but in this next paragraph that I'm going to read you, which, ladies and gentlemen, it is a doozy, she completely refutes the fact that it works. While the frequency with which these skirmishes has just slightly decreased. So the abuse of the 1-year-old is only happening a little less often now. The speed at which we as a family are able to move through them has dramatically increased. We used to give him a number of warnings, and when those weren't respected, get angry. Might I suggest, and you can say no, try spankings. People argue whether those things are acceptable or not, but children are different. Some children, all they need is to have things taken away from them or timeouts. I was a child who needed his butt handed to him when he did something wrong. Maybe it's this kid. Moving forward, we'd all get sucked into an emotional black hole for around 20 minutes, where we'd waste a whole lot of energy and patience. Now, one little kick or forceful hug, chokehold, and he's off to his room for a couple of minutes. Period. That's it. Period. Essentially, what you are saying is the abuse of your 1-year-old is still going on. A little kick or a chokehold, and he's off to his room for a couple minutes. Leave a comment down below whether you think this is crazy or not. My personal opinion is the second time you assault a 1-year-old baby, I will do whatever is needed to make this thing stop. One of you is 5, and you're removing oxygen from a developing brain, and you decide that a couple of minutes in his room is enough. Mrs. Strauss, I'm sure that you love your children. I don't think that this is the appropriate way to handle the behaviors of one child. Heaven knows, it sounds like the kid needs karate. It sounds like he's moving into like the mixed martial arts. Heaven knows he needs a punching bag, just not a 1-year-old. You could say, why? Why would they allow this to happen? The next paragraph explains perfectly why. If this is as good as it gets for the time being, we'll happily take it. Ladies and gentlemen, they're settling for this. They're saying that their child cannot achieve a higher level of discipline. They're trying to find the easy way out. The fact that they're in an emotional black hole for about 20 minutes. Obviously, don't discipline your child based off of your emotion, but discipline them based off of what they do. And sometimes that is difficult. You don't want to discipline, you don't want to spank, you don't want to time out, you don't want to do these things to your children, but that's what's going to benefit them in the long run. And parenting is tough, it's hard, it's a long road, but it's important. And if this gets out to Miss Strauss, I have nothing against you. I'm sure you love your children, but don't settle for the continual abuse of one of your children, a 1-year-old. Anyway, guys, that's going to be it for me. I know this was a little bit of a different format, and the comedy was a little lacking, but I'll be back on it in my next video, I promise. I've just been having a little bit of video issues. But anyway, leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you when you tune in next time to another episode. Rational the Radio, signing out.